Dear viewers of the Mail, we are here at the riverside in Juba, and today the ambassador of UK. He have been with us here in Juba for a long time, and now he's going to another mission in another African country. With me here today, Ambassador Johnny Baxter. Hi, welcome to the Mail.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for your welcome.
Yeah. What is your feeling today as you are going from South Sudan? First, how many years you spent here in South Sudan?
So this time I've spent nearly 2.5 years here, but I was here before. Before independence, I was based in Khartoum, and I would travel down, and that was 2 years between 2008 and 2010. But I'm very personally very sad to be leaving because I really love South Sudan. I've enjoyed my time here. And your viewers can't see, but just over there behind the camera is the Nile, and that is a beautiful sight. And this is one of the very few countries in the world where you can stand and look at the Nile and listen to the water run by, which is a lovely thing to do.
UK and South Sudan, or Sudan in general, have a strong relation, historical and this. For you personally, when the first time you heard about South Sudan and Juba?
Goodness. So I remember as a child hearing Emmanuel Jowell singing. And that might have been the first time I remember hearing about the Lost Boys, the boys walking out of South Sudan. And of course, as you know, I was educated in Britain quite a long time ago now. We knew about things like Khartoum. We knew of General Gordon. So I think Sudan as a whole has been a place that's been in the UK's consciousness for a long, long time. And in fact, many of the pictures that I saw as a child of Africa were probably taken in South Sudan for the anthropologists that came here, the Golden Bough and books like that. So, yes, this is a country that I think probably lots of British people know about, but don't realise they know about it. They haven't worked out that that's where these things have come from. I've known about South Sudan, I guess, and Sudan for a long time.
And how you see the relation between South Sudan and UK?
So fundamentally, our relations are good. We are always going to be friends. We are, at heart, friends. There are times when those relations feel a little bit sticky, and that's because, as a good friend, we want to be able to say things that we think are sometimes a bit critical to the country, but we say them as a friend. We say them as a critical friend, wanting to help this country move forward. But the relations between our two countries are very good.
And UK also help a lot financially and support. We saw in girl education and in many projects in health. So could you tell us about, as ambassador, the projects that UK doing and want to do for South Sudan?
Right. So at the moment we have, we've got lots of areas of support. The ones that you've just referred to, we set up and we fund something called the Health Pooled Fund, which has now more recently had many more people come and join it. And the Health Pooled Fund has contributed to getting hospitals and health centres and indeed health workers to increase their skills. And it also, one of the most fantastic things it does is produce a very, very strong supply chain of providing drugs, medicines into those hospitals, into those health centres. So that's a programme that we are hugely proud of. We also have a programme for girls' education. And the objective there is to get more girls into school, but get more girls staying in school. And that sort of program is really close to my heart because before I joined the government, I was a teacher. And education is such an important thing, and it is so important, particularly in countries where fewer girls go to school than boys. It's particularly important to think about ways of getting girls into school. And we've been delighted to see the progress of the number of girls enrolled in South Sudan, and we will continue to focus on that. But as well as seeing children enrolled in school, we need to think about the learning outcomes, what they learn at school. We also provide a lot of assistance to humanitarian, and that is a critical thing. It's a sad thing that we have to do that in South Sudan. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and we will continue to do it because it's the right thing. But I think none of us want to do it because we don't want there to be humanitarian need, and we'd like to move to a place where actually there are sustainable systems that stop some of these humanitarian needs happen. And then also we put money into support into the mechanisms around the peace process. So we support RJMEC and CTSAM because those are really critical mechanisms behind the infrastructure behind the peace process that tries to keep that on track and help everyone when it is maybe a bit challenged. And as well as that, we have sets of programs that focus on, particularly on women's issues and women's rights issues. And one of the saddest things for South Sudan, one of the saddest things that I've ever come across here is the level of violence that is perpetrated against women, both domestically and in the context of conflict. And it is, yes, heartbreaking. And it's important that we are able to do some activities, not maybe as many as any of us would like, but some activities to help address those issues as well.
Okay, as you're going to Nigeria, Lagos, what is your agenda in this mission at UK Diplomat?
My agenda in Lagos?
Yeah.
Well, so the office I'm going into has a commercial and a consular focus. It also has a security focus, so we support a bit of anti-piracy, and also it's the economic development bit. So Lagos is this really big economic hub for Nigeria and indeed for West Africa. And so the British government wants to work and support that engine of growth there. And as with here, trying to make sure that the systems, the procurement systems, the way in which budgets are used, all of those things become stronger and that governments are accountable and people are accountable for the use of money. So all of those sorts of things are absolutely critical in any country, in our own country as well. Those are the things that mean that the money that a country has gets used for the priorities that the country wants to use it for.
Okay. What is your comment on the speech of the Minister Barnaba when he said that Charles helped South Sudan in stop slavery that time? What is your feeling?
Well, it's always good to hear and interesting to hear sort of perceptions and perspectives of history. I think the UK clearly has lots of things in its history which if we look at with today's eyes, we would be very worried about. And I think looking back to that era, one has to remember that it's a different era. But it's always good as well to remember, I guess, two things: the connection between real people and here. It's fascinating to think that he, and I didn't know this, that he sat across the river there. But also, it is important to remember that, as well as some of the people who came with less good motives, there were many people who came into Africa with very good motives and wanting to improve conditions. And it's critical to remember those sorts of things as well.
I've been here in Sudan before the independence, and now South Sudan get it independence. But South Sudan fell in a lot of problems, politically, ethnically, and Sudan also now facing some problems. How you see these problems, and how will affect the future of the two countries?
Well, so
and what the role that your country can play as because your country was ruling this Sudan as one, and now they're facing a lot of problems. Even some of them issue of borders, maps, and this thing.
Yeah. So any problems that are left unresolved become issues for countries, and I think that's true of any country. So you asked sort of what do I think of those problems? They're worrying, but in both Sudan and South Sudan, there are processes that are in place that are trying to find a way of resolving those problems, and I wish all of those processes the very best, and I wish the people who are engaging in them the best and the strength to take them forward, because I know that actually doing the peacemaking is really hard, doing compromise is really hard. So I think it's important to recognise the problems, but it's also important to recognise the things that are in place that are starting to try and deal with those problems. You asked about the role for countries like the UK. Well, look, we come in clearly as friends, but we are not, frankly, any more important friends than many other friends that South Sudan has. And just because we have a long history with this country, it doesn't mean that today we bring any magical solutions to things. And what I want to do, as we've done for the last 2 years and as we will continue to do, is to work with colleagues from the region, to work with other countries represented here who have South Sudan's best interests at heart. And I'm always heartened when I see the positive influence, the positive interest shown by neighbouring countries. It is, in your terms, what happened, the decrees and the discussion over the decrees is a problem. It's caused a bit of friction. It is fantastic that that the Ethiopian Prime Minister comes here because he's worried about that and what he wants to do is help. It is fantastic that Sudanese delegations come. It is fantastic, I think, that in the past the new Kenyan president has spoken about South Sudan. Those sorts of things I view as all really positive. That we're engaged, and we're engaged to help. We're not engaged to tell people what the answers are. We can't decide the solutions for South Sudan or for anyone, but we can support when those solutions are being implemented, and that's what we want to do.
Okay. Finally, we want to thank you, and we hope we meet again.
Thank you, and I do hope we meet again. I'm looking forward to coming back and standing in front of the Nile again.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.